So today I'm asking, did Charlie Chaplin ever come to the Stowmarket area? And you may be wondering to yourself, why would one of the top Hollywood silent film actors from that era have been to Stowmarket on, you know, the other side of the Atlantic? But actually Charlie Chaplin's family on his father's side were from this area, and we're going to go and visit his grandfather's grave that's in a local cemetery up in Great Finborough. I'm currently reading Charlie Chaplin's autobiography, and it's quite interesting really. So he was born in London, so Charlie Chaplin wasn't born here in Suffolk, but his father's family are all from this area. As well as reading his autobiography, I'm dipping into a biography written about him by someone else that has a sort of more details of his connections with this Stowmarket area. Apparently the Chaplins were descended from French Huguenots. Don't really fully understand all that, but I think that was a religious sort of thing in France, and the Huguenots fled and came here, I think. For several generations, the Chaplins on Charlie's father's side lived in Great Finborough and actually ran a shop, a load of old cobblers. Well, I mean, they ran the shoe repair shop, which eventually became also a general store, and then the post office, but I'll show you that in a minute. Poor Charlie had a traumatic childhood, so it started okay. His earliest memories, his parents were performers in the music hall, and he's got fond memories of the early days. His father was quite absent. He was a drunk and a serial womanizer, so he wasn't around very much, and it was his mother that looked after him and his older brother Sidney. So back in the day, because Charlie was a bit little to be left on his own, he'd stand in the wings in the evening while his mum performed, and he loved his mum. And one night something disastrous happened, and that was mid-performance. His mum kind of lost her voice and she couldn't sing, and people were starting to throw things and boo her off the stage. So the stage manager saw him and sort of got his mum to come off the stage and pushed him on and said, just do something. And this is where he discovered his natural kind of comedic skill, in that he went on and he was familiar with the song his mum was singing because he'd seen her sing it lots of times at different sort of music halls. So what he did, I probably shouldn't try and film and climber style. I'm not a woman, can't multitask. So what Charlie did was he continued to sing the song his mum was singing, as I said. But, you know, the crowd was still a bit annoyed and he's trying to win them over. So he did a sort of comedic impersonation of his mum singing the song, quite exaggerated, which, because he was just a little lad, little boy, got a lot of laughs from the audience. They really warmed to him, stopped throwing things, calmed everything down, and I think he did a little dance or something, just entertained them. The stage manager was really pleased, and that was really the start of Charlie Chaplin's career in performing on the stage. So he became part of his mother's act, and possibly his father. His father was sort of did comedy songs, I think, and various bits of comedy sketches, and so Charlie got involved with that. So eventually what happened was he joined Fred Carno, had a sort of comedy performance company, variety acts, and Charlie Chaplin came in and played a little boy in several of the sketches in that. Apparently at the time he looked even younger than he was. When he came to want, you know, bigger roles, they weren't readily available, because even though he got older eventually, he was still seen as a little boy character. But during this period, unfortunately, his mother's inability to sing and her throat problems became permanent. So her performances were her only source of income. Remember, this is before the welfare state. There was no backup, no benefits or anything. So she fell into poverty, and the little bit that Charlie got paid, and I think his older brother Sidney went out to work as well, started working, but they were just bringing in pennies really back in those days. So they fell into poverty. What appears to have happened is that his mum starved herself so the two boys could eat, which in turn, and the trauma of being in such dire straits, and just she became malnourished, and she was put in a padded cell. She sort of went, what they would say is mad. I mean, she's just having sort of traumatic symptoms, I guess. She was in and out of hospital, but of course the poverty situation was just getting worse, and when Charlie didn't have any work, or Sidney didn't have any work, things just got harder. And in the end, there wasn't any help from his dad. His dad was off with women and spent all his money on drink, really. In the end, his mum took them to the workhouse, and they got separated. The workhouse is terrible places, but she was desperate. So he got separated from his mum, only allowed to see her for probably less than an hour a week. And because the slight age difference between him and Sidney, they were separated as well. So he had a very young boy, ripped away from his parental figure. His mother was the only one that cared for him, really. But his mum sounds a great character to me, because she could see when she met them for the hour a week, I guess at weekends, she could see how traumatised they were with the workhouse. And so she did this, I think, was really cool thing for the mum to do. When you've got no money, you've got nothing. And I think somehow with some of the jobs she was doing in the workhouse, just, I don't know, did she make a little bit of money? She had a few pennies anyway. But she told the authorities that her and her two boys would be leaving the workhouse one morning, or told them the day before they'd be leaving the next day very early. And so she took them out. So they lived in London, so she took them out for the day. They went into the park, had some very cheap, it'd be like today just having a bag of crisps or something, and had a day in the park, played with each other, and then when the sun started going down, she checked back into the workhouse. Of course, the people that ran the workhouse were very cross with her, so she may have got some rough treatment for that, but they knew she was a genuine case, so they took her back in. I thought, what a clever way to just have a day out with your two traumatised boys when you've really got no options. Just onto the walk for a moment. If you don't know, this walk come from Burford Bridge, and the little 3 words that are appearing. If you use the What 3 Words app and type those words in, I'll I'll show you on the map where I am at that point in the video if you want to follow the walk, and come round down the river through the stables, and just along here is a little cut through onto the golf course. So as you come onto the golf course, it's sort of slightly bare left. There is a little yellow arrow sign straight across to the other side of the golf course, then follow the line of the fence there and watch out for low flying golf balls. Hang on a minute, is that who I think it is? So basically you want to head for the edge of this hedge here, and you'll see there's this public footpath poster, and there's a footpath down here and a footpath the way I've just come across the green. So although it's a golf course, you know there are a couple of footpaths across it. I think there is another one that goes down the middle somewhere. Don't know if you've seen the film Chaplin with whatever his name is in it, this person here, and the movie as well as the book describes this or shows this sort of moment that Charlie Chaplin had, where his sort of iconic tramp character was created. I think he was working for Max Sennett, so he was now into films. He went out to America, I think with the Carnos troupe, for a little tour of music halls, but he stayed out there, and you know, by a series of connections he ended up in making silent films. And I think this event came when he was with Max Sennett, who was a director, made a lot of comedy silent films back in the day. They were doing their comedy. He wasn't that famous at this point, and he was doing other people's scripts, not his own. And they just needed another character. And I think it was Max Sennett told him, just go into the wardrobe room in the studio, grab any costume whatsoever, and come out. And he's basically just being almost an extra, but they just needed another character in the scene. And Max Sennett was getting quite impatient, but what was happening was that Charlie Chaplin in the wardrobe scene couldn't at first decide, and then he put on the clothes of the tramp. It's like one of them moments that the universe kind of kicks in and gives you your destiny, I reckon. And when he settled on the bowler hat that was slightly too small, the jacket that was too small, the trousers and the boots that were too large, and then he put a little sort of toothbrush moustache on and picked up a little walking cane, he describes this moment of suddenly meeting the character of the tramp for the first time. Almost describes it as though it's a spiritual experience, which for him maybe it was. So we head into Finborough churchyard, which is where his grandfather is buried, and then I'll show you where his grandfather's family lived for several generations on the main road in Great Finborough. Yeah, when they so to keep your eyes open for that. So at the end of the hedge, keep a look out for this official path. It's an official path diversion, yeah, because I'm sure it used to go straight over there. So we're staying into the hedge now, but it heads to the same place, hopefully. So we're sort of hugging the grounds of Finborough School. Yeah, we're just following the boundary of the golf course where it connects with Finborough School. But somewhere along here there's a little passageway that leads to the church. Yeah, so you'll come to this little entrance with a metal fence, and that's the way through to the church. So we want to follow this path round and come in the other side of the church off the road. There's another sort of celebrity gravestone there, but that's another video, I think. Come to this little T-junction in the footpath, and you want to go left towards the church. And there is a little gate. I was going to go up to the road, but there is a little side gate here which will come in. And one of the reasons I was going to come in the main entrance from the village that way is that the headstone we're looking for is about halfway down the main path, right near the path apparently. So, was Chaplin born? When was he born? Early 1900s. So then you'd have his dad and then his granddad. So we're going to be well into the 1800s. I think this is the one. No. Oh. Yes. This is the stone here. We've got Rebecca Chaplin. Died 82 in 1931. Okay, so and then Charles Chaplin, who was Charlie's granddad and lived in the village here, he died in 1932, February 27th, aged 85 years. So his grandparents lived a long life, but his dad actually died, I think, in his 50s. So certainly his grandparents lived longer than his granddad. His grandparents lived longer than his father, I meant. And I think wasn't there another one here? These old ones are very difficult to read. The sun's put it all in the shade, but I think that's also a member of the Chaplin family. I think what we'll do is walk into the village and I'll show you the shop that Charlie Chaplin's granddad used to have. And I think his great-granddad before him, and possibly several generations, have just come out of the main entrance of the churchyard down a little road that leads into the village. As we approach the main road, we're going to just come off the road along this footpath here and sort of go right onto the main road. You want to do a pub lunch while you're here. I've not been to the Chestnut Horse for a while, but the last few times I went it was very nice food. And there's a couple of little cottages here. The old vicarage apparently. Not a bad place to be a vicar. Yeah, and that's the house. And I think just along here a bit further is what was the old post office and the Chaplin stores. So you'll come to this little 5-bar gate and you'll see a footpath sign down the side of this next building. The next building is actually the old post office, I think. It's now called Lime Tree House, and yeah, I do remember in my time while I've lived here when this shop was still open, and yeah, I think it was the old post office or something, and going in for a couple of snacks having walked up here, but I didn't know anything about the Chaplin connection back then. So I recently found this photo of the shop when it still had the sign on Chaplin stores. So that's the granddad's old shop. The census reckons they were sort of shoemakers or shoe repairers or whatever for some generations, but that was the place where they lived and that was the shop. So I think what I'll do now is go down that little footpath I just showed you down the side of the property. Looks like you're going in the back garden, but you're not. It's just into a footpath. And then you just follow this round. Yeah, so this was Charlie Chaplin's granddad's house. In the unlikely event you're still watching at this point, I'd like to say if you'd like to support these videos, you can make a donation on the Buy Me a Coffee, although I only drink decaf, but that's neither here nor there. Yep, so the link to the Buy Me a Coffee donation is in the link below, in the description below. Other than that, if you fancy watching a few more of these videos, don't forget to hit that red subscribe button, hit the little bell icon, and you'll get notifications of new videos. Give it a thumbs up if you want, share it with a friend, and I'll see you in the next little film, wherever that takes us.